What up, IDS Mob? Welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm your host, as always, Harry Wilmington. This is the show where you go to learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Happy Saturday, everybody. It's a great, wonderful day outside, so I'm not going to keep you too long because I want to get out there and enjoy the sunshine too. But I've been away for like 2 weeks because I was out doing other things, so I had some pre-recorded stuff that hopefully you guys enjoyed, and now I'm back. So my regular schedule from now on is going to be Tuesdays, 5 p.m., Saturdays at 9 p.m. Obviously, I'm starting a little bit later this morning, but it is what it is. So anyway, on today's show, I've had requests from a few guys now asking me to talk about attachment styles and how they show up in dating. And so I was going to go try to do all of them. And then when I was doing my research, I realized that like each one of these individually just have so much I want to say about them. So I think I'm going to divide them up. And today's show is going to be all about the anxious attachment style. We're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about how it manifests because a lot of guys are unaware they're even showing this particular kind of dating style or attachment style rather. And so many guys are unaware that they show anxiousness in their dating process, that it's like, I'd say about like 90% of guys show it. And I don't think all guys necessarily have an anxious attachment style, but I think a lot of guys display many actions that indicate that they could to a woman, which scares them off. And so I'm going to actually go into 12 examples of how your anxiousness shows up to women as an anxious attachment style and why that turns them off. And then ways that you can start recognizing that you're doing that and what to do to start drifting away from being so anxious in dating and being a more confident dater. So we're going to talk about all that stuff. Plus, of course, I'll be answering your questions and all that wonderful stuff on today's episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. Let's do it.
It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
All right, guys, so we're going to jump into it. Again, as always, if you guys have any dating questions that you want me to answer during the course of the show, you can definitely leave them in the chat, and I will get to them. If it pertains to a particular subject, I'll get to them while I'm talking about it. If it doesn't attain to that at all, then I will answer your question after I go over the attachment style portion of the show. Also, guys, let me get my water real quick here. So check it out with this water bottle. It says groomsmen. So another client of mine is actually going to be getting married later this year and asked me to be a groomsman because they appreciated my help. I'm like, it's fantastically great. I love seeing people get together. And if I had any part in their journey of being successful or helping them build confidence, I am all for it. So, but again, that's all good. So anyway, let's talk about attachment style. So what drew me to this was there were quite a few things, but there was somebody that left a message on or left a comment under one of my videos like recently. I forget which video it was in particular, but he was talking about anxiousness in women and whatnot. And so I was going to do a show talking about the positive benefits of women being anxious in the dating process. Which I'm going to still do as a show. I'm going to say that probably for like Tuesday's show. But in doing research about what anxious attachment style was, I realized something. And it's that the majority of guys that I find are having issues with women that write me and about their situations they're going through, when I'm looking at the behavior that they demonstrate and then what I'm reading about in my research, I realize, oh my God, there are so many guys that are unintentionally showing women that they have an anxious attachment style when that might not actually be how they are, but that's how they're showing up in their dating life, and it's causing women to be turned off. So I'm going to show you guys the article that I saw. We'll pull it up here. So again, I'm going to do shows on all the various attachment styles as it pertains to dating, but this is the first one that I came across, and I was like, I can do a whole show just on this one. So there'll be shows on the other 3 attachment styles, but today is anxious. So let's read what this says about the anxious attachment style. So it says, anxious attachment style is characterized by feeling insecure in a close relationship, often devaluing yourself and overvaluing the other person, says this doctor. There can be a chronic fear of abandonment in their relationships, and they often require contact and reassurance to feel safe. Then a key sign, which we'll go over more of the key signs, but this one article says this can mean that you want 24 hours a day, 7 days a week contact. A person with an anxious attachment style may constantly text their loved one and anxiously await a reply. Doctor. When the reply doesn't immediately come, they will either text again or may dissolve into a total funk. So in a number of the messages that I get, I hear that. Like I hear you guys write me and saying, hey, I was texting this girl in the beginning and things were seemingly great. And then we had a date, went out a couple times, and now for whatever reason, I'm still trying to text her and she's no longer talking to me anymore. Or her text has slowed down, or she's not, she's only answering with like 1 or 2 letter words or stuff like that, right? And so when that happens, like I'll say to a guy, okay, well, maybe you should try texting her less. And it's like, again, a lot of times it's just through the internet, but I can already feel them being like, oh my God, but if I text less, then what's going to happen? Oh my. And that, my friends, is anxiousness. And what you're not aware of is that when you start displaying things that make the woman feel as though you're being needy of her attention, you're desperate of her attention, then that's behavior that to her seems like anxiousness. And women don't want to be around anxious guys. Women prefer guys that are more confident, in part because they're anxious a lot of the time, and they need to see you as a guy that's cool, calm, and collected, that like is the rock she can lean on. And I've said before, it doesn't mean you can't ever have doubts about things or be anxious, but it does mean that of the two of you, she's not looking to be the person you lean on for like disasters going on, because you should be able to handle the disasters, And so, but what men do early on, for one, is they show all this anxious behavior at a time when they're not even in a relationship. Like that article was talking about anxious attachment style in relationships. And most of you all are showing anxious attachment in the dating phase when it shouldn't be that serious, when she doesn't yet have a full-on interest in you, and your interest is so high early on that you're like, I'm already here after date 2. She should already be there. If she's not, I now got to do things to make her feel that way because you're feeling anxious, and because you're thinking her not being there yet means that she's never going to be there, or that she's never going to have those feelings, or you don't know what the timetable is for her to build up those feelings, even though I always say it takes women 2 to 3 months. But you're like, but it's been 2 weeks. I'm already feeling the things. And so what I want to demonstrate to you guys is the fact that even though you are well-meaning, you're just trying to get her attention, you're just trying to communicate with her and contact her more and spend all your time with her, you're not aware that these various behaviors are actually showing her that you have an anxious attachment style. And I can assure you, the majority of women don't want to date a guy that is showing anxious attachment because it is not attractive, it is not appealing. And in their history, they have found that most guys that have that, if they're not getting their way in their anxiousness, they can start to do harmful things. And I don't want you to be a guy that can't get the girl you want, So we're going to go into what some of these things are as it pertains to the various examples of behaviors that you may be unintentionally showing women in the course of being anxious, right? So here are some examples of what these behaviors look like. So for one, you're constantly seeking reassurance. What does this look like? I will tell you this. I remember I dated a woman one time where she had gone through a divorce. She had had a traumatic past, but she was overall a pretty great person. But what I noticed was, I fully subscribe to, if you're in a relationship, you should be doing regular check-ins with the person you're dating. So like my parents, every 6 months, they'd sit down. Hey, it's been 6 months now. Let's talk about what's working well, what's not working anymore, what needs to change, and what we could be doing to go forward into our relationship, right? 6-month check-ins, very healthy. Heck, 3-month check-ins, very healthy. This woman I was dating, it'd be like, she'd say, hey, let's have a check-in. I'd be like, okay, so how are things going for you? I'd be like, things are going great. Fantastic. How are things for you? Things are going great. Okay, awesome. Do we need to fix anything? No. Okay, great. 3 days later, hey, let's have another check-in. I'm like, why? We just checked in 3 days ago. Oh, just because you want to make sure, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. Well, things are still going great. Things are wonderful. Okay, great. I kid you not, like 2 days later, hey, let's have another check-in. And so I realized like, oh crap, like she's been through it, because the fact that she's Having to constantly want reassurance means that she is not confident in herself, and she's just looking to me to be that person by constantly letting her know, you're doing great, you're doing fantastic, you're doing wonderful, blah, 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 blah. And guys, that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. Like, you should ideally be going into situations where you have a level enough of self-confidence to be like, look, if a girl says she wants to be dating me or being in a relationship, I'm probably a good guy for her. Like, she probably thinks that I have the things that she wants. So for you to go to her all the time and be like, hey, am I doing this okay? Is everything fine? Whatever. And here's how this ends up manifesting, right? Is that, you might be on a date for a girl, for example, and 30 minutes in, things might get silent for just a little bit of time. Like, you've had a good conversation, and then there's like a natural lull in the conversation, and you're like, well, is everything okay? Are you bored? Do you like me yet? I'm probably just stuttering too much, or I didn't eat my food. Like, you go on and on about like saying all these negative things in the hopes that she's going to reassure you. No, the date's going great. No, everything's totally fine. No, you're doing a fantastic job. And even though you're thinking, oh, she's saying those things, it's great, what she's thinking is, this is a lot of work. This is a lot of work to have to try to keep telling this guy that he's doing an okay job. It's date 1. Or now it's date 2, and he's like, well, is it okay if I kiss you? Because I don't want to like, not kiss you if you don't want that. Like, all that apprehension, that makes her look at you in a different way. And so, but that's an example of anxiety manifesting. You're thinking of it as, to make sure that she's good, I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. But what you're actually doing is masking your insecurities and masking your anxiousness. And that's going to cause her to second guess if she wants to continue to date you. Because again, the dating phase is a time to feel all this stuff out. To her, if you're already showing these things in the dating phase, it's only going to get worse as you get into a relationship, because then you're going to get in a relationship and be like, okay, I'm in a relationship. Now I really got to make sure that I'm doing everything right. That means you're going to constantly go to her, constantly ask her questions, and she's going to be annoying. All right. So that's the first way that anxious attachment style shows itself. The second way is over-analyzing interactions. What does this look like? This looks like you go on a date with a girl, you have a good time, you go home, you sit there, and you just start analyzing every single movement, every single word she said, every single sentence. That time she looked at the waiter, when she kind of half smiled at something that you thought wasn't all that funny when you were telling something personal about your life. What does that mean? It also means that you're going to start unintentionally misinterpreting certain actions that she does. For example, you schedule a date for Friday, and then on Wednesday or Thursday, which is still a reasonable time, she hits you up and says, hey, you know what? I really want to go with you on this date on Friday, but there's a family emergency that came up and I cannot make it. I can be free when I get back in town on Tuesday, but Friday I just can't do it. I'm so sorry. And instead of hearing the situation that she's putting forth and saying, okay, cool, no problem, we'll go some other time, you're like, what does that mean? Is that a real excuse, or is that a fake excuse? Did she find some other Chad that's going to come by and bang her up instead of me? Like, what's going on? And then you start looking at everything like that. Now, it's not that couldn't be happening. She could be canceling because she has some other guy, or she could be canceling for the reasons that she told you. But the point is, you get so up in your head about it that it's always negative. She only cancels if it's a negative. She only doesn't text you back because if she's with some other guy. Like, you get into that kind of mode because every single thing she does, you're trying to piece together, does this actually mean that she likes me or she's about to leave me? And being in that state is also not fair to women, because they're trying to go with the flow and have a good time dating. And sometimes things just pop up. And so not every single movement that she makes is her consciously trying to do something to test you or do something to get away from you. But if you take it as such, that shows to her that you're really, really anxious about things, and you're not allowing the process to just naturally lay out. You're not trusting the process. And as a result, she's going to start to lose interest. So that's the second way that anxious attachment shows itself up. The third way, and this is the one that so many guys fall for, is needing constant contact. This is where a lot of you guys fall into the category of you want to text her nonstop. And if she misses a chance to text you back right away, then you suddenly start worrying about what's going on. Every time that she's not around, you're thinking that something horrible is happening, or that she's trying to leave you, or that you guys are suddenly in some kind of fight that you're not aware of. And now you're trying to overflood her phone with text and stuff like that. And so it's just this idea of that if she's not around me and if she's not constantly talking to me, then something's wrong. And again, I've been in the process of dating where I dated girls like that, where I would, I'm not a big texter in the first place, but I'd be like, hey, like if you text me, I'll answer back. But like, if I can't, I'm probably doing some other things. Hey, in the dating phase, I may be out with another girl. I may have a clinical trial. I may be doing things with friends. Like I'm not going to be at my ready on my phone all the time. And I found that there are women out there also that will be texting you nonstop. And then the one time you don't text back right away, hello, hey, where are you? What's going on? That was annoying for me to experience as a guy. So I can only imagine with women, if they're talking to 5 or 6 guys, imagine like a woman dating 5 or 6 dudes or just entertaining conversations. And all 5 or 6 dudes are constantly anxious and constantly saying, why aren't you texting me back? What's going on? Hey, beautiful, why are you ignoring me? Like that gets frustrating. So it's easy as a guy to stand out, by the way, by not being that guy. By not being the guy that has to constantly text her nonstop, you'll be the breath of fresh air that she actually thinks about. She'll be like, oh, these 4 guys keep texting me nonstop. What about that 5th guy? That 5th guy is like, leave me alone. Like, I need to see maybe I need to reach out to him. And so, yeah, but when you need their contact and them to be around all the time, you're thinking, but it's because I like their company and because I really want them and I want to show that I like them. What it's actually doing is saying you're fearful that if you don't keep tabs on her, she's going to find somebody else more desirable and leave you. And again, that is not a thing that women want to see. They want you to walk around as if you know you've got her. Like, go talk to other people because you know what? They're not going to be better than me. And if you do find one of them better, I'll find somebody else. I'm that good. Like, that's the attitude that's going to help you win a lot better than needing their contact and needing to see them all the time. It's better for you to be like, hey, go enjoy your friends, have fun. And let her wonder, why do you let me go away so easy? Oh my God, like he's letting me just have free time. This is great. But like, does he, what's going on? Like, again, it's always, they can get away with anxiousness. We can't, which I'll go over another show. But suffice to say, for you as a guy, you needing their contact all the time, it's not a good look. The 4th way that the anxious attachment style shows up is having a fear of abandonment. And this is especially true for guys that have been cheated on in the past and they haven't gotten over that trauma. Like they haven't recognized, okay, that one girl had issues of loyalty and therefore that was her. That's not all women, but you'll carry that with you into your next relationship to where now, again, if she's not texting you back right away, or she's like, hey, me and the girls are going to go out for drinks tonight. You're like, go out with drinks for the girls. She's going to be cheating on me with other guys. Oh my God. Like, if you went through a situation, I feel for you. I've been there. That does not mean that you get to now wallow in that and then take the trauma of the cheating situation into the next relationship with the next girl and then try to treat her as if she's the person that cheated on you. Like, that is never going to be a good way to come from this situation, guys. And if you're in that situation and you can't get out of it, you need to figure out how to disassociate the cheating incident from the current person that you're seeing. Because I can tell you now, most women aren't trying to cheat on you. But if you've been through that a couple of times, it could be very hard to have the lens of like that not being true. So deal with your trauma. You need help with that, hit me up. Get some kind of coaching, some kind of therapy to get you out of that headspace. Because if you go, it's a funny thing, like if you go around dating women thinking they're all going to cheat on you, it's like you're talking into existence the thing that you don't want. Like a woman that had no desire to cheat on you will cheat on you if you say to her enough times, I bet you're cheating on me. I bet you're going to cheat on me with your best friend. I bet you're going to go to that party and cheat. Like the more you say it, she'll just start thinking, you know what? Maybe I should. He already thinks I'm doing it. I might as well do it. So don't talk that up. And again, if you have trauma from the past about that kind of stuff, talk to somebody. The 5th way that anxious attachment style shows itself up is over idealizing the partner. This is the whole putting somebody on a pedestal, thinking they're perfect. The problem comes though, when that perfect little flower that you're putting on a pedestal makes a mistake. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, they made a mistake, but they can't be human. No, I can't wrap my mind about them being a person that's making a mistake and like doing actual things that like are unintended. Like, if you don't look at women from a real context, then they're always going to just be a fantasy. Women, the reason women date bad guys is because they know at least the bad boy is not holding them up to some unrealistic standard. Like, yeah, he may cheat, but that means that he's not telling her that she's the hot stuff and that she's the best in the world. Because as much as nice guys, for example, want to say, oh, the girl I'm dating is so perfect, that's a lot of pressure to live up to. And so you trying to put women on a pedestal, you may think it's like the best thing, or you may legitimately feel as though this is the best person ever, but you have to understand that person is going to disappoint you. And so it's better for you to have a realistic version of how this woman could potentially be. That's why I'll sporadically do videos about like, oh, women do cheat on their partners. Women do steal money from their guys, because it's not that I want you to hate women. I want you to get them off the pedestal that you have them on. So you go into these dating situations with your head on your shoulders, being able to properly analyze the situation and taking your time to see what they're actually like. Because when you go into a situation, when you're pedestalizing them, you're going to be in for grave disappointment later on. And no woman can hold up to that high standard forever, So just something to consider. But consider also that you hold them up to a pedestal is your anxious attachment style coming through, because you're thinking if they're perfect, they're also going to solve all my problems, and I'm going to have a partner that can walk through the world and know that everything is going to be hunky-dory. And that's just not the reality of how situations are going to work like that, Anyway, quick drink here. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Another way that anxious attachment style shows itself is you are starting to depend on the relationship, or in this case, the dating phase, for your self-worth. So you're looking at, if she texts me, if she says yes to a date, if she compliments me, then, oh, I have self-worth. And now you're relying on this other person to be the reason you have self-worth and value and confidence in yourself. The problem is, what if they can't be there? What if you need your girl there one night to cheer you on at your sports game so you can feel confident you're going to do a good job, and she has like a work thing? Now it's like, you weren't there. I couldn't score the goal because my women weren't there. Like, women don't want that kind of pressure. Like, they really don't. Like, they want to go with the flow. They want things to be easy. And when you're making it their mission to make you feel good about yourself, that is a lot of pressure for a woman to deal with. She's coming into this thing as her own person, ideally with her own self-worth. And yes, you're going to be there to accentuate that. But just like it's not her job to rely on you solely for her self-worth, it's not her job to give you self-worth. You should already be coming to this thing being confident, being bold, knowing what your mission is in life and your purpose and all the other stuff. And so it's great if you have a woman by your side that's going to encourage those things and cheer you on, but you also can't, change up your mission if suddenly that support can't be there for whatever reason. She has a family thing come up, she's got her own plans going on, and she can't happen to make it this one or two times, and you're losing your head like a basket case. Like, that's not fair. But again, if you're an anxious person, that means you haven't had time, or you haven't created the skill set to regulate your own self-esteem. And so you're looking outside of yourself to get that. And again, that is never going to be a good thing, because what if it goes away? What if she dies? Then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I can't believe myself anymore because the person I love so much in the world died. Oh my God. Like, it should never be that. Like, it's nice if they're there to support, but it should not be the thing that ultimately brings you all your happiness. Just saying. Another way that anxious attachment style shows itself is you having insecurities in the relationship. This goes to, like, maybe you were hurt deeply in the past and you're like, oh my God, like, you're afraid this other person is going to leave you. And now it's like, again, every little move she makes that isn't to your liking, you think, oh my God, this is because she's trying to leave me. And again, all this is ultimately about like pressure, like you trying to do things to control her and her thoughts and her feelings is all pressure you're giving to her. And again, your anxiousness is coming off as neediness and desperateness, which women do not want to feel when they're trying to get with a guy. So yeah, you being insecure about yourself and insecure about the relationship, or just in the dating phase, insecure about, like, a lot of guys want to know early on, hey, we've only been on like 2 dates, but like, where are your feelings at? And how do you feel about me? And would you kiss me or hook up with me eventually? Or where do you see this going? Like, they're asking all those types of questions on date 2 or date 3, when the woman needs like 2 or 3 more months to even figure out where her feelings are collectively with all that stuff. Like, she can like you a lot on those first couple of dates. She could even hook up with you, but to try to say to her, and also you need to let me know like how much you like me, like right now, and like where your feelings are currently at and all this other stuff, like, that's rushing the process for her. And all that's doing is showing her how insecure you are. The fact that you need her to validate how you are so early on, when she's just like, it's been a couple of dinners and maybe a hookup, like, things are going great so far, but I'm not at the high level yet. But this guy's already there. And now it's not fair to him if I keep trying to date him because he already has the feels for me and I'm not there yet. Now I don't want to be the bad woman, so I got to be out, all because you're being insecure, you know? And so you have to learn. And this is why in my dating program, the Introvert Dating Success Academy, I talk about what things to analyze and look for so that way you will always automatically know where a woman's feelings are for you so you don't have to ask. Because at the point that you start asking, hey, what are your feelings? Hey, what are we? Hey, what's going on? Are you dating other guys? All of that to a woman screams insecurity. And if she's sensing insecurity in you, that's going to be the thing that starts to turn her off, even if she would have initially probably dated you had you just not asked those questions and shown insecurity, you know? And a lot of guys, I'll say this. Sometimes guys don't believe me when I say, well, you know, I'll say things like, you know, if you hadn't done X, Y, and Z, then she wouldn't have left. And they'll be like, well, if she really liked me, she would have stayed and she would have dealt with me as I am. No, because she's seeing parts of you that shouldn't be there, and also are to her detriment if she accepts those things in her relationship. And so, yes, some of you guys have lost women that you would have actually gotten had you not shown some of the steps I've gone over so far and will continue to go over. So once you learn what those things are to not do, and then you have a blueprint in place for how to actually attract women, then you will actually get the women that actually want to date you. But the women you've lost now, don't think that doesn't mean they didn't want to date you or that they had somebody else in the background. It could very well be they wanted to date you. You showed insecurity, you showed neediness, you showed desperation, and they left because that's not the version of you that they initially thought they were getting. You know, just want to put that out there. Anyway, this goes to the next thing that happens when you have anxious attachment is you have difficulty with boundaries. This could be a thing like, you know, for example, you text her on the phone, right? And she doesn't answer. So you decide, I'm going to show up at her house unannounced. I'm going to show up at her workplace, or she's going out with friends at a bar. I'm going to just happen to show up at that bar because you know what? Because she'd be happy to see me, of course. But see, what's that? That's all. I want to get validated right now. She's not answering her phone, so I'm going to go to her work now so I can get validation. I'm going to show up where her friends are, so because she hasn't shown me to her friends yet because it's been 2 or 3 dates, and so I want her friends to know that she's dating a great guy and that she'll be able to see how happy. So like all that speaks to you're looking for validation. You don't feel secure in yourself. And so, yeah, you're now going to break her boundaries in your head for a good reason because you want to be able to see that she wants you places. She wants to be able to see that she's not going to reject you if you just randomly show up someplace. And then you're going to be surprised when she's like all mad at you, like, why the heck did you show up where my friends are? And you're like, well, I thought you'd be happy to see me. And she's like, dude, we just started dating and like, I like you-ish, but like right now I'm with my girlfriends. I don't want to talk to you right now. And that's going to hurt your feelings because you have an anxious attachment style. So recognize, guys, if you start noticing doing things like you're trying to show up places unannounced or you're trying to invite yourself to places where she wouldn't normally try to invite a guy that she just started dating, then that indicates that you have an anxious attachment style, and that's not good. Another example of how anxious attachment style shows itself is emotional volatility. So what does that mean? That would mean like, you know, 1 minute you're being kind and caring and showing affection, and then maybe she says something that was unintentionally hurtful to you, or she does something that you didn't think she should do, and all of a sudden your mood switches. Oh, how dare you? Oh, you become irritable and withdrawn, and you're like, I don't want to talk, and blah, blah. And like all that's basically like, you know, you're going from, I think she's the one for me, she's so perfect, to like, oh, this thing happened and now I'm mad about it. And you're not knowing how to regulate your emotions. You're not knowing how to talk about something in a calm, even tone. Like that level of volatility. And again, I've talked on the show before about how like in the dating phase, a little bit of an emotional roller coaster for women is fine, but like doing it in a negative way where you go from like hot to cold, you're liking her to you don't want to like her, you want to hook up with her, to then you want to push her away. Like all those things, again, that actually speaks of you being very anxious because you're going from basically like your body's trying to regulate, it doesn't want to get hurt. So when things are going great, you're like, oh, things are wonderful, I want to be around her. And then when it's not, you're like, oh my God, I got to pack my bags because I don't want any more hurt to come of me. That's not good. That's not good at all. And that's just making a woman think he's not the solid rock that I thought he was at all. He's actually a guy that's very nervous and very anxious about stuff. And that's going to result in probably me facing a lot of turmoil because I don't know who I'm going to get from day to day. And women don't want that. They want a level of mystery and unpredictability, but they don't want so much unpredictability that they can't tell who you actually are, if that makes sense, you know? Another example, we just got 3 more examples, guys. Another example of anxious attachment style showing up is having a lack of self-soothing skills. So you get overwhelmed, you get stressed out. Rather than saying, oh my God, I'm overworked and stressed out, let me go play a video game. Let me go for a walk in the park. What you want to do is you want her to come along and do all the soothing. Hey, make me a meal. Hey, tell me a story. Hey, rub my back, do whatever. And it's not to say that women aren't great at that, because they do want to do that. Like women that have a high interest in their guy, they generally want to be there for their guy when he's going through issues, to be a listening ear, to soothe him, whatever like that. But when it becomes a have to, like a thing where you can't regulate yourself at all. Like you need, it's like I've seen those situations where it's like the guy, like think about all the situations women get into where like they date a guy that's like, I'm going to self-harm myself if you don't come over here and hug me or if you break up with me, like that kind of stuff. And that's the levels that it can go to, which is why women want a guy that when things are going haywire, they can go to their man cave. They know how to take a break. They know how to talk to somebody. When you don't have those skills, that ends up happening where they think down the line, God, this guy decides to really self-harm himself. Like if I'm going to be that woman that has to be the one to talk him off the ledge, like the literal ledge, like he's about to jump to his, what, if I don't come and talk to him. And that's not a position women want to be in. Like women want to be there for you, but they don't have to be the sole cure for fixing your anxiety. But a lot of guys get to that place and they don't understand why women don't stick around in spite of but I just really wanted her to know that I need her in these situations. Like, yeah, they want to be able to think it's their idea to soothe you. They don't want to think that it's now a mandatory thing. That's a thing that makes women feel forced and chases them away. So let's not do that. The 11th way that anxious anxiety shows up is overbearing behavior. This is where you try to micromanage things like, hey, so make sure you text me when you get home. Because it starts off nice. Hey, text me when you get home. Hey, let me know when you got to that party safely. But then it goes into things like, hey, you need to be here at this time and do this thing. And don't hang out with those people because they're bad for you. And, don't wear that thing out. And again, if you have a problem with like a woman's friends or her dressing scantily clad or whatever, that's a different conversation. But realistically, you're meeting her how she is, And so you dating her is saying to her on some level, I'm accepting you as you are, flaws and all, it is what it is, right? If you're like trying to micromanage every single thing she does, you're thinking you're doing it under the guise of being helpful, but that's actually a thing where you're trying to control her, because in order for you in your head to have the perfect relationship and not be all anxious about stuff, you need her to be doing things perfectly the way that you would want them done. I got news for you. Women have their own authority to do the things that they want to do, how they want to do them, and it's not always going to be the way that you want them done. And you have to be accepting of that, because if you're not, then most women, then there are women out there that will be like, I want a guy to come in and tell me what to do and blah, 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 blah. Those women typically find they're not as happy with that option as they thought they were going to be. But suffice to say, if a woman's like, if you're like, hey, I think you should wear that blue outfit, and she's like, but I want to wear the green one, and you want to now fight her on it, that's going to be a problem, all right? And then the 12th way that anxious attachment style shows itself is difficulty in trusting. Like I said, guys, let's face it. In our early dating lives, we go through a lot. We go through a lot of trying to figure out ourselves and how we are as men. And then we're going out into the world in real time, trying to date women while trying to figure ourselves out as men, while trying to figure out how to be the rock and be more confident, all this other stuff, right? And in the process of that, women may see us while we're trying to date them and be like, he's not fully developed yet. I want to get out of here. Now, the process of that, some women are going to lie to you about why they're leaving you. Some women are going to downright cheat on you behind your back with your best friend. Some women are going to just go ghost and never talk to you. And this can cause us over time in our early stages to develop trust issues, because we start getting this lens of like, the last 4 girls I dated ghosted me, cheated on me, blah, 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 blah. Therefore, all girls are like that. I can't trust any single one of them. And then you're going to come across a woman that came from a good home, 2 parents, maybe grew up in the church or not, whatever, but like she's even keel. She legit has a good head on her shoulders, and she is interested in you. And you're going to look at her and say, and I can't trust you either. And every move that she tries to make to try to show you that she's trustworthy, you're going to still second guess it. She comes home at a decent hour at 9 o'clock. Yeah, but you could have come in at 8:59. That extra minute, you could have been cheating. She's going to text you back all the time. But she's texting me back, but she can still have the guy next to her and just be texting me to keep me off. Like, And that's going to mess up the whole relationship, simply because because of your anxiousness, you can't even trust when a good one actually does come along. And I get that a lot. I have guys write me like, they'll be like, hey, so I'm doing the situation with this girl and she said she couldn't go on a date, but she counter offered with another day. Does that mean she still likes me? And I'm like, but again, I used to be that guy. So I'm like, yeah, if she counter offered, it means that she still likes you. But I have to tell guys that because they have experiences of women just canceling and then giving all these bogus excuses and then saying we'll reschedule, but they don't. And so if you experience that enough, it's hard to break out of that. And the hardest part I've had to teach, and I have to teach myself this too, is that the next girl is not the current girl. And so just because this one cheated or was doing something behind your back, it doesn't mean the next one will. And so the hardest part for a guy is to train them to treat every new girl like it's a clean slate. Now, the caveat is, if you find that you are repeatedly dating the same kind of girl, that speaks more to, okay, why are you attracted to this specific kind of woman? And that is work that you need to do in your brain, on yourself, to analyze what's going on. Because at that point, it's the fact that you're picking these bad girls consistently, not necessarily that they're not trustworthy, you know? But that's a topic for another day. But suffice to say, so those are 12 examples of, I'll go through those real briefly again, the 12 examples of how anxious attachment style shows up. 1 is constantly seeking reassurance. Number 2 is overanalyzing all your interactions. Number 3 is needing constant contact. Number 4 is having a fear of abandonment. Number 5 is over idealizing the partner, i.e. putting them on a pedestal. Number 6 is dependency on the relationship for your self-worth. Number 7 is insecurity in the relationship. Number 8 is difficulty dealing with boundaries. Number 9 is emotional volatility. Number 10 is a lack of self-soothing skills. Number 11 is overbearing behavior. And number 12 is difficulty in trusting. So those are just some examples of how all this stuff shows up. Now, before I get into what how to fix all that stuff, I'm gonna go through the comments real quick. Let's see, you guys been writing some stuff here. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's see. Last messages. Okay, so I'll read through this comment that I got here. So this guy says, had 2 dates with a woman who had mutual instant chemistry and connection, very affectionate in both dates. I lead, no problems. I tried to set up a third date, but she pulled away. I didn't send her lots of messages in between dates. I noticed she would respond to me and left me undelivered. I asked her why. Okay. And she said she doesn't feel like she is ready to fully date like me, as she had previously been in a 12-year relationship and didn't want to get into another one. I reassured her that I'm happy to go with the flow and take it easy, but she hasn't responded since. I've sent her more messages, big mistake, and she left me undelivered. I don't understand what I've done wrong. It's like she knows I am great relationship material and isn't open to the idea of it because she's not emotionally ready for it. She says she likes a man with emotional intelligence and availability, but when I asked if she has it, she said she's working on it. Oh man. Okay, that's a lot. So let me just kind of, I'm not trying to laugh at you guys. Like, I'm laughing at, and I've said this on the show before, is that all women are the same and that they all think they're different. And yet, they all say the exact same things when it comes to gently letting down men. Oh, it's not about you. It's about, I was in this relationship. And let me tell you, I have dated divorced women that were like recently out of their marriages that were like, and again, I'm like, they're dating like, hey, I'm not trying to rush. I'm like, hey, we're just doing it with this and that. 3 months, 4 months in. Hey, so are you in a relationship? Like, can we be boyfriend and girlfriend? Like, why? Why is that? Because I will say this, women are great at picking up on energies. And so even if you aren't overtly saying we should be in a relationship, they can read from how you're interacting with them that everything you're doing is trying to push them into a new relationship. And if they're not ready for that, and I don't mean ready in the sense of like she dated this guy 12 years and she's not ready. I'm in the sense of like, if it's been like 2 or 3 dates and she's already getting the feeling from you that you're trying to push her towards a relationship and she's not there yet. That's what I talk about all the time. All we care about is where she's at. And this is why I know sometimes guys get mad when I say, what about my feelings? Your feelings are going to be too fast. Okay, just get that out of the way. So your job is to figure out how to get the feeling off of you after 2 dates that you're ready for a relationship with this person. Because the fact that you said, she said she wants somebody emotionally intelligent and wants a relationship, and I'm already there, she's already reading off of you that you're ready for this to be a relationship. And it's been like, what, 2 or 3 dates? That's not enough time for her to have developed that, but because she's feeling off you the energy of, I want this to be a relationship. And that could be through your conversation. It could be maybe you're extra touchy-feely, you're not aware of it, but however you're interacting with her, she's getting the feeling that you want a relationship now. Otherwise, she wouldn't have brought up, hey, so I'm not trying to date right away because of, my 12-year relationship. But I can assure you, if you weren't getting off that feeling, she would be pining and coming to you by month 3 asking for it, So this is one of the situations where she lied. And again, I don't fault women for what they tell us, because I understand as a guy, or I understand from women's perspective, that guys can typically be very, how shall I say, unaccepting of when women are trying to reject it. Like if a woman just came out and said, hey, it's been 2 dates, it's been 2 dates, it's been great, but I'm not feeling it anymore, so I'm out. Then most guys be like, well, what do I do? What can I change? What can I do better? And they're not looking for that conversation at that point because they're already on the way out. I've actually found that just being like, okay, cool, well, if you change your mind, get back to me, usually can result in them eventually coming back, because at that point they realize by giving that kind of answer that I'm not trying to force this to be a thing. And it makes them question, well, why isn't he trying to, I thought he was going to fight me on this, but he seems cool, but so he's not trying to force me in a relationship. So does that mean he's not as desperate for it as I thought he was? Interesting. And then they'll think a few days. I've had it where I remember one time I was seeing a girl and I was being a little pushy. I was like, hey, because we live near each other, but she suddenly started slowing down her text and saying, I'm not sure if I'm ready for a relationship, blah, blah, blah. And so I literally I did one of the things, because I had anxious attachment style back in the day. I showed up at her place unannounced. Hey, so just want to know what's going on, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, dude, I'm studying for tests and doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. I just need a few days. And so I said, for the first time, I said, you know what? All right, she's saying she needs a few days. I like her so much, I don't want to give her those few days, but I guess I need to do that, because otherwise, if I keep pestering her, I'm going to lose her. If I don't talk to her, I'm going to lose her. But at least I'll be showing respect for her process by leaving her alone a bit. And so I said, okay. And I went home, and for 2 painstaking days, I did not text her. I did not call her. I did not follow her or anything. It was so hard. And then 2 days later, hits me up. Hey, which is girl code for I want to talk to you now. I was like, hey, what's up? Nothing. What are you doing tonight? Oh, just chilling. Okay, cool. Well, let me know if you have any time. Because I gave her that time, and giving her that time made her realize I'm not as anxious as she thought I was, even though I was, but I was just trying out not being anxious, because being anxious was not working for me. So yeah, so this is a situation where at the point where she said, I've been in a 12-year relationship, blah, 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 blah. You trying to reassure her and try to say things like, I don't need that, blah, blah. They know you're lying. So the best answer you can give is okay, well, hey, if you change your mind, hit me up. I'd love to see you some more, but if not, no harm, no foul. And then you get out, and then you wait. And this goes back to the conversation we're having today about being anxious, because a hard thing for an anxious person to do is to believe that they'll get the outcome that they want if they're not doing. Anxious people are all about, I need to be in control. I need to move things around to make sure that I get what I want, so I can feel confident in whatever the situation is. And the way that you get what you want is to let go. It's a lesson I had to go through where I'm like, wait, so if I just do less stuff and just trust that the person on the other end that I'm trying to impress will also do things to try to impress me, and do things of their own accord at some point to show me that they actually want me, that I'll be able to get the girl that I want. Well, this anxious thing has been working. Let's try that. So I started doing that. Lo and behold, more relationships, more hookups, more dates, all because I was not now trying to control the other person. All I could do is make the offer. Hey, I want to take you out. They can say yes or no to it. Beyond that, take them out, show them a good time, and hope to God in another 4 to 6 days that when I ask them out again, they want to do it again. And then at some point, you make the move to make the kiss, you make the move to go to the bedroom, and you just hope that the move you make is going to be accepted. All I can do is make the move the best way that I know how, and hope that it's accepted. And if it's not accepted, don't get butthurt by it. It may have been timing of the move. It may have been that they're not ready for the move. It may have been that they're still hung up on an ex and need to get over that. So I got to delay the move. But I can't take it personally. All I can do is make the offer the best way I know how. Now, I have a whole program at my website called Introvert Dating Success Academy. And that whole academy, this is just a plug, walks you through the ins and outs of how to go from meeting a woman to getting into a relationship. And it takes you through all the steps from meeting them, calling them up, taking them on dates. And one of the things I talk about is the specific ways to make certain moves that's naturally comfortable for both you and the woman that make her open to these next steps. So this is why I say, if you have a blueprint for how to date, it makes the anxiousness of dating just completely go away. Like before I had a blueprint of how this all stuff works, I was like, okay, so I took them out on a date, but like, when do I talk about my feelings? When do I call them? And when do I have a sit down conversation? And when do I do like, and the unknowing of all that is really what kept me the most anxious. At the point that I actually figured out a consistent flow of how to go from meeting a woman to getting into a relationship, no more anxiousness. Now I'm the captain of the ship. Now I know what moves to make. I know the moves she's going to say or do before she even makes them. So I already know how to be prepared for what to say when she says stuff like, well, I don't want to rush into a relationship. I already know what to say. Well, I just want you to know I'm dating other people. I already know what to say. And so because I'm able to move with a lot more confidence, it results in women getting rid of any other guys who would have been dating, and also me getting up to get in more relationships. So again, that's for the Introvert Dating Success Academy. Again, you can check all that out the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com. Plug over. Anyway, so hopefully, Guy, that helps you in terms of like understanding the mindset of where she's at, understanding where you need to be, is that, and I always tell you guys, you need to live in your head about abundance. Every woman you date, until she gets to month 3, you should not even assume that she's ready for a relationship. You should assume that's why if you're dating 2 or 3 different women at one time, and I've done some shows about that, but basically that opens your mind up and makes you realize that they all have to work to prove to you why it is that they need to be chosen, instead of you sitting there like, I want her to choose me so bad. If you're in the position where you're wanting women to choose you that badly, you're going to lose like every time. So it's better to get into the headspace where it's like, you guys are technically both doing the choosing, but like, you're not so sold on her after 1 or 2 dates. And like, you're going to find most women in their experience, after 1 or 2 dates, most guys are already sold on them and already trying to get them into a relationship. If you're the one guy that comes along and gives the impression to her that, yeah, it's been 2 or 3 dates, it's been a good hookup, she made me 1 meal, but what else is there? And that you're not so impressed by the fact that she just went out with you and chose you to go on a date with, you're going to find that more women are going to want to date you longer, and it's going to leave you with the option of choosing them, because they're going to be the ones coming to you saying, hey, what are we? And as I always say, if she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. But if she thinks you're chasing her, as much as women talk about, I want a guy to chase me. If you think about like the animal kingdom, right? The male lion runs faster than the female lion. They don't want to be mauled down, right? So you let them come to you instead. And this is how the operating of the dating game works. But again, if you have a blueprint for all that stuff, then you'll be better equipped to be less anxious as it pertains to dating and the situation in particular, you know? So hopefully that helps you out. He says, thanks for the reply. If she reaches out, hopefully I will be over it and my indifference may attract her back. I always tell you guys, indifference is really a big key to the dating game. Like, and I think sometimes people take being indifferent to meaning not caring. It's not that you don't care about the person. It's that you're indifferent to the process. Meaning, if you understand the dating process, for most people, the dating process, in order to be successful, is going to be the majority of women you date aren't going to end up in a relationship with you. Like my favorite show of all time, not of all time, but like I used to watch How I Met Your Mother, and the guy on there, Barney Stinson, played by Neil Patrick Harris, he was like the ladies' man in the group. And what's his face? Marshall, his friend, put together a graph of like how many approaches he has to do, and then how many of those approaches have to actually work to get Barney to be able to actually even get a hookup. It was like 1.5 to 2% or some crap like that. Like he has to hit on a lot of women, get smacked a bunch of times to have a few women left that want to have a conversation. And then it boils down to a few more women that want to actually hook up. So even guys that are like debonair guys that get like, you know, we see those guys that get like, oh, I slept with 100 girls. I can assure you he probably had to hit on like 3 or 4 times as many to get that number. So don't think even the suave guys aren't having a problem with hooking up with women. You know, you have to reach a level of celebrity and status to where that's barely an issue. But even most good looking guys aren't just walking into a bar and saying like, hey, somebody hook up with me. Like women can do that and get a bunch of dudes. A hot looking guy, bar with 100 girls in it. Hey, who wants to hook up? He might get 10 girls if he's lucky. You know what I'm saying? So just know that if you know that rejection is part of the game and that sometimes you're going to be dating a girl and thinking it's all great and all of a sudden it just kind of goes away, that's normal for every guy. All right. But it's not who rejects you. It's how do you handle the rejection? Do you say, no, please come back and date me. I'm going to show blah, blah, blah. Or do you just be like, okay, well, best of luck. And if you change your mind, hey, hit me up. If I'm still available, let me know. I'll let you know. We can start something up again. And again, that attitude, it removes from a woman's mind a lot of the negatives she was initially thinking about you. She was thinking you were anxious, desperate, needy. You were going to be begging for her approval all the time and trying to beg her for sex. And then when you just say, okay, well, best of luck to you, now that gets those thoughts out of their head. And I've had several times in my life, especially back when I didn't know all this stuff, where like, in my college days, for example, I had a female friend that I had a crush on, and she had a crush on me, but then I called her up one day and told her that I liked her, and then she stopped liking me. I stopped talking to her sporadically for like 3 or 4 months. Next thing I know, she's hitting me up. She's inviting me over. She showed up to her door in lingerie. And then I was trying to get needy again. She went away. I stopped talking to her for a couple months. She comes back. And why was that? Is it because she's like a crazy person? No, it's because she wanted the version of me that was the fun version, that wasn't obsessed and being super serious about a relationship. Because women are the ones that need to come to you when they're ready to be serious in a relationship capacity. You as the guy trying to come to them with it, it's always gonna be too soon. It's gonna feel like too much. And women want it to feel like it's their choice to get into a relationship. Even though you have a say in the choice, she wants to feel like she's the one that's generally pushing this agenda. So just let them think that. Like, it's not the game to let them think that they want the relationship more. It's actually better for you as the guy, because realistically, she knows, look, women know at the point that they agree to a relationship with you, they're going to do all the things. They're going to sacrifice their time, effort, energy. They're going to be doing all these things to you, like buying things for you randomly or saying, hey, babe, I thought of you today and just want you to, have a good day. And I made your lunch for you, all this other stuff. And so that's why it takes them longer to assess a guy, because they know at the point that they get into it and they have their feelings and emotions tied to you specifically, it's going to be very, very hard if this doesn't work out. So if you just respect that about their process, then it makes you less apt to have to rush them through it so hard to get to that point. She dated a guy for 12 years. I can assure you that she has 12 years built up with this other guy, a relationship capacity. I don't know if she broke it off or if he broke it off, but that's 12 years of stuff, right? But then she had to break that off. Do you think she wants to experience that again? No. So she's going to take her time to really analyze and assess that you are the right guy, so she doesn't rush into it, have all the feels, and then it just goes nowhere. So again, if you respect that happened as part of her journey, then just be the fun guy. Guys get so hung up these days on the thing we're doing has to be called a relationship. And I'm like, why? Like, you're mad that a woman, for the moment in time being, just wants to spend time with you and hook up with you without calling it a relationship. But you're still getting a hookup. You're still getting her to do nice things for you. You're still getting kissy poos and all this other stuff. But if it's not called a relationship, but that goes to the anxious attachment style. If we feel as though if the title's not there, she's going to possibly still have her options open to leave us for somebody else, and that can't happen. And then you end up losing her anyway because you're so anxious. So just some food for thought about that, Let's see. We have some other comments in the chat here. So this guy says, I have learned this valuable lesson for a girl that gave me the friend zone speech this past Valentine's Day. I pulled back for a week and a half. It was through you I learned the concept of distance and attraction timetables, simple behavioral changes, and being less available. We still see each other once a week, which awesome. Thank you for that testimonial, first of all. But second of all, yeah, this is what I say, you guys. Like, so again, one of the things I teach in the Introvert Dating Success Program is about the pacing of dating. And one of the things you need to do is, if you're not rushing the process, then what's going to happen is, as you're taking your time, she's going to realize that she's starting to like you more. And now she's going to want more of your time. And in order for that to happen, she has to request it. So if you're just consistent and once a week asking her out, then a good barometer for you as to where her feelings are growing is when she starts saying, hey, I know we just saw each other on Thursday, but there's something coming up on Sunday. Do you want to join me? That's an example of one way that a woman will show where her level of like for you is at. Again, I go through a bunch more of examples like that in the program itself. But yeah, as she starts to request more of your time, then that means that you're not forcing her to spend time. So think about this. Most guys are forcing text. conversations. They're forcing, hey, like, I saw you yesterday, I want to see you today and tomorrow and the next day. Like, and when you do that, yes, you're not trying to force her, but it feels to her like she's now forced to sacrifice time to spend with you that she didn't A, initially have, and B, didn't think was needed because she didn't know she was going to be dating a guy so early, and she has other commitments, job, friends, family, work, etc., right? And so when you don't ask of those things, then as she starts to like you more, and you'll literally see it. You'll see women's faces start to change about how they look at you and how they, talk to you and stuff like that, to where you'll start getting more confidence in things. And then she'll say, hey, we saw each other today. How about tomorrow? Hey, I know we normally see each other during the weekdays, but there's something happening Friday or Saturday. And that's the big one. But anyway, so suffice to say, yeah. So you have to leave room for women to come to you. Because as I say, if they're chasing you, they can't be replacing you. If you don't leave room for them to show that they're wanting to chase you, and you're doing all the things because you're anxious and think you got to control everything, then you're not trusting the process that she goes through to build up to where she wants to now show you that those things are necessary. So just some food for thought about that, right? He says, exactly, that pullback was all about self-reflection. The day after she gave me the speech, I had to be a little cold, a bit drift off. And see, and that's true. And that's the part where my job is basically trying to convince guys that all the things that they think they need to do to get women is actually what chases them away. I got a book on my website called No Girls For You, The Ultimate Guide to Losing the Girl of Your Dreams. It's the first book I ever wrote. And I wrote it back when I was a bad dater, and I realized, oh, these are some bad habits that I have that causes me to lose women. Maybe other guys could use this too. So that's also at the website. But yeah, like that's one of those things where guys think it's playing games if I pull back. Oh, if I don't tell her how I feel, I'm not being honest, and therefore I'm playing games. If I don't say that I want to see her all the time or tell her my feelings, and I'm just hiding myself, and that's like, guys, you're playing the losing game. You bought into the lie that if you don't tell a woman everything and you don't try to see her or talk to her all the time, that you're a bad guy, or that you're not showing your like, and therefore you're holding back, or that if you wait 4 days to contact her after a date, even though she knows that your phone's readily available and that you're free, that you're tricking her. And like, none of that is true, because how women build up attraction is different from how guys build up attraction. And so if you're not understanding of their dating process and what they need to go through to build authentic like for you, then all you're going to see is they're playing games. No, they just do things differently. So you can choose to just be yourself and just do the things that you've been doing up to this point if it's working for you. But if it's not, consider that the ways in which you're moving about the dating world could be altered and could be changed to get better results. At the point when I was like I had my first hookup at 23, but it took me till like 25, 26 to start to be like, okay, wait, women can't all be crazy. I'm the common denominator. And so as much as I think I'm a great guy as I am, if my actions or the way that I move about in the world indicate that women don't like that, if I don't want those results, I got to change. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm not at 42, I'm not the way I was at 5. If I was to be like, I should never change, I'd be acting the same way I did when I was 5 years old, and nobody would like me, And so you got to consider that personal growth is part of who you are. And when I was doing sales, I used to sell vacuum cleaner systems, right? But it was vacuums that use the water basin instead of like a bag, which is its own presentation. Short version, you guys that are using vacuums with bags, you're not cleaning your floors. Anyway, but the point is, I would have to go into houses and talk to people that bought vacuums for years, and they're in the habit of buying vacuums, and are used to getting a bag at the store and sucking up all the dirt, even though it's not picking up anything, all this stuff. I have to go in there and tell them, hey, you're stupid for using a vacuum. But if I say it like that, that's not going to make them want to change. So what do we do instead? I say, hey, you know what? Up to this point, you have been operating in the only way you know. You've only been told that this is the way that you vacuum and clean your floors. But now you're coming across a new way that's more effective. And so with this new knowledge, wouldn't you as a smart person be willing to make a smart decision based on all the knowledge you now have? And so the same is true with dating. Like, if you've been operating a certain way up to this point with dating, that is how you are. That is yourself. But it's only because you didn't have extra knowledge about how dating actually works, about how attraction actually works for women. So now with my stuff or other stuff on the internet, you see there's now a different way that could potentially work better. You now have new knowledge. So if part of yourself is now, instead of being like this, consider that part of being yourself means that when you come across new knowledge that looks like it works better, you're willing to at least try it out and see if it's effective. And that way, you're now open to the idea that, hey, I could try this new thing and it not work, and the old way goes, I go back to it, but at least I was open to that process. But if it works, I can now be open to doing that process because I identify as a person that is open to at least exploring and researching all things. And I found being that way, now if I tie to my ego that I'm a person that is always open to at least finding out about new things versus how I am is perfect, that's a better way for your ego to be, because now you can say what's tied to my personality is always being open to new stuff. And the same is true with dating. And you'll only get better at dating if you realize that the way you are now can always be evolved with new knowledge. So just want to put that out there as well. And yes, I'm seeing Ghostbusters next week also. I'm very excited for it. All right, so before I get off on a couple of more tangents here real quick, let me go to the other part of this, which is how to combat the whole anxious anxiety thing, right? So you're anxious, you're realizing, oh my God, I'm doing anxious things. I'm texting nonstop. I'm trying to control what she does. How do I get out of this cycle? So I'm going to tell you 5 things that worked for me that hopefully will work for you as you try to become a more confident dater. So the first thing, very, very important, you have to become more self-recognizing. You have to recognize your patterns of behavior. And it's very easy when we're ourselves, we're us, we're the heroes in our own story. It's very easy to go years and just be caught up in how you do things and not realize that the way you're doing things doesn't actually work. So what this means is that you're going to have to start basically like going outside your body to really look at what you're doing and start recognizing various patterns of behavior. One of the earliest ones for me was this, right? So I talk about, guys write me a lot about texting, and I talk about how texting kills attraction. I got a whole book on my website called Texting Women Like a Boss, 21 Texting Commitments to Use to Attract Women with Your Phone. And one of the big things I noticed early on, which is why I wrote that book, is because I realized early on that when I was texting women a lot, it would start off great. And then over time, it would slow down. They'd start sending 1 or 2 word answers. And then it would go to nothing. Or when I'd finally ask for another date, it'd be like, not interested, right? So that's a pattern. How do I know? Because even though I've stopped doing that, you guys keep on writing me. And every guy, you guys are not different. Every guy that writes me has the exact same pattern. I was texting her a lot. Things are great. It slowed down. She ghosted. That is a pattern. So look at your own texting life, for example. If you've noticed in the last 3 or 4 girls that you were interested in, that it started off, you were texting a lot, things are going great, and then it slowed down, and then she ghosted, it could be you're texting too much. So then, okay, if you recognize that pattern, let's try not texting so much. Let's try what Harry says, which is only text to get dates and see what happens. Let's try only waiting 4 days between dates to text, even though I'm anxious about trying it. Nothing else I'm doing is working. Let's just try that out, trying to invite her to see you all the time. The big thing in the pickup artist thing was the whole idea of keynoing. Keynoing is basically like the thought that in order to get her to want to touch you, you got to try to do some non-sexual touches first, and then that'll let her know that, oh, this guy wants me to touch him, and I'll touch him back. And so I did that when I was looking at all the pickup artist stuff. I'd be like, I'll go on a date and be like, try to touch her, and this and that. And I found that women were creeped out by it because it's like, why is that happening? They said to touch, I'm going to touch, and then all of a sudden it's like they don't want to touch me, or they back away from me, or like, oh, they don't want to go on a date with me anymore. What the freak's going on? So then I was like, wait a minute. So if every girl that I'm trying to start touches with, they're going away. Okay, so that must mean that they're not ready for my touch. Okay, so like, does that mean they want to touch me? And then I started noticing, okay, but like the times when I'm not touching women, I find that when I'm not touching them, they're trying to find a reason to touch me. They're reaching out on the table. They're walking close to me. They're bumping up against me. They're touching my shoulder. Okay, so that's a pattern. So let me just try not touching, but let me see how I can put myself in their aura so that way I'm available for them to touch me when they're ready for it. Oh, surprise, surprise, that pattern worked better. So start looking at your past instances of like whether you were in times of relationships like seeking reassurance for things, or you were trying to go to her to beg for something, or she said she couldn't make a date and you lashed out at her. Like really start to look at the times at the point where these dating situations failed. what was the action? Like, we can say, oh, she was crazy or she just didn't lost interest, but like really like go back and analyze. Because if you go back and analyze, I can assure you, a lot of things that you think like, oh, she just didn't like this thing, or I don't know. If you really look at, okay, but what was I talking about on dates? Like, what things did I say that made me look like maybe I wasn't the most secure guy? What made me look needy? What actions was I doing that in hindsight made her realize that, oh, I'm trying to push this thing too soon? Like, if you really analyze, then the good thing about doing that is that now it takes the onus off of her and what she did wrong, and it puts it onto you. And sometimes guys get, annoyed that, Harry, why do you always talk about like, what the guy's doing? It's because this is a channel for guys, and I want guys to be able to take control of their own dating life, which means taking control of the things you're doing. You can control to some level how she responds to things, but that's going to be based on how you're showing up on these dates. And so you can control that. You can control how often you text. You can control the kinds of things you talk about on dates, how often you go on dates. You can control when you're trying to have a relationship feelings conversation. Like, those things you can control. So if you recognize the patterns of things that you typically do that cause women to head for the hills, then you will be able to say, okay, I can work on this. I can work on this, versus the girl's got to come along and do the right things, which just goes back to anxious attachment. You're waiting for her to try to show you how. I hate songs when the guy's like, you need to show me how to love. That's not her job. Your job is to go in there, having worked on yourself, to know what it is you need to do as a guy to show up authentically in the world, but also in a way that's going to attract women. So part of that goes to some patterns you have could be bad patterns. Learn what they are and get rid of them. It'll be the best thing you do for your life. Another thing you can do to combat anxious anxiety, anxious attachment, is to reflect on past experiences. Really dive deep into how it is that some of the things from your past could be affecting how you're showing up. I'll give a perfect example. I talk on the show extensively about how my dad died when I was 9. And so because of that, I didn't have a male guide to guide me through dating and blah, 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 right? Well, the reality is, in addition to that, my brother also lost a dad. Like, we have the same dad, same mom, like all this stuff, right? He was a complete Mac with girls in middle school and high school. He told me one day, because when we were kids, when he was a teenager, Titanic was a big movie, right? Titanic came out and just blew everything out of the water, no pun intended. But like, that movie was 3 hours long. My brother saw that movie like 7 or 8 times. And so when we got older, I was like, dude, you saw Titanic like so many times. He was like, yeah, like it was a 3-hour movie. It was the only place I could go to where I could take dates and mom wouldn't question where I was taking them, and I could go make out for 3 hours. Totally missed that message. You know what I'm saying? But so I had to look at, okay, so then what was the real reason? Because he clearly, whatever. And what I realized is that my brother's favorite parent was our mom. My favorite parent was my dad, and that loss hurt. So as a way to combat losing somebody that I love so much ever again, I was self-sabotaging myself to where at the point that I started realizing that there were girls that actually liked me, I would do everything I could to make sure she was turned off. And I didn't realize till about mid-20s, like, oh crap, like that's some leftover trauma crap that I never got over. Holy cow. So I had to look at that past experience and contextualize like, oh crap, like, so I'm doing this stuff to get rid of women so I won't feel bad if they end up dying on me later. Like, that's horrible. I got to like realize that if women are liking me, I need to start figuring out what to do to keep them around, because that's not fair to me or the person, So really look at your childhood, look at the things you were told as a teenager, whether you were teased, whether you were rejected, like look at all these things. So that way you can start getting a better idea of like some subconscious thing that you have hidden in the back of your past that's causing you to fail with women now. And just doing that work, you'll be surprised at how much just doing some self-reflection will make you second guess and realize, oh crap, that's why that happened. Oh, that's why I'm this way. Okay, I don't have to be this way if I just deal with what this trauma is, or at the very least just recognize what it is, So that's the second thing. The third way to combat being an anxious attachment person is to start monitoring your emotional reactions. Now, this is very important because if you're not aware of this exercise, you may be a guy that's just like, well, I just am the way I am, and the things I get mad at, like people will recognize at this point that they get triggered and don't want to do nothing about the triggers, or they'll just go about in life reacting certain ways and not really getting to the root of how that reaction came to be in the first place, and then being able to monitor it. So for me, for example, right? I've had instances dating, for example, let's say like, I'm very much a time stickler, right? If I say I'm going to be here at this time on this day at this place, then I am expecting the person that I'm with to also respect that, right? So at the point where that doesn't happen, let's say I get to some place at 7 o'clock and my date calls me and says, hey, I'm gonna be like 15 minutes late. Well, at this point, I have options. I can yell at this person because I'm like, you freaking knew what time we were supposed to be there. And like, why you make me wait? Once again, you're just not respecting my time. You're just that kind of girl, blah, 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 blah. I can do that. I've seen plenty of guys do that. But does that make the woman feel like good? Like she could be late for legitimate reasons. Traffic, got held at work last minute, couldn't find the right shoe, or she did find the right shoe, but then she got locked out of her car trying to get to me. So she had to figure out another key to get, like tons of reasons, right? But I could have the reaction to this, I'm just going to fly off the handle. Or I could be like, you know what? Before I get mad, let me just stop here. Okay, she said she's going to be late. What am I feeling right now? I can feel that I'm angry. I really want to curse her out. I can feel myself starting to be that guy that I don't want to be. So before that happens, why don't we just sit and wait for her to get here to further explain the situation before I decide what my reaction is going to be. And you know what's funny is that most people don't think that they can control their reactions like that. Like people think, well, but then that's not me reacting authentically. But if you reacting authentically to things is causing you to curse women out or to call them out their name or to do anything that makes you look needy in some kind, then is that the actual reaction you want? It is not. And so I find anytime something that I don't like happens, just sitting there and reflecting and thinking about it for 10 seconds, just like before I react, before I decide to react, let's look at the situation. How am I feeling about it? What actually happened? Can I take a moment to think about this from the other person's perspective and what's going on? And can I be patient? So this goes to everything from like texting. I text somebody, okay, it's been like 5 minutes. They haven't. I had a friend, I'm doing a wedding expo because I have a photo booth business also. So I have a wedding expo I'm doing next week. And I called one of my female friends to help with the wedding expo because females at wedding expos do absolutely great, right? So I hit up and said, hey, I wanted to know if you can help me with the expo. Crickets. Didn't respond for like 3 or 4 days. I'm like, so 3 or 4 days been sitting there like, okay, she needs to get back to me. Like, what the freak? So for me to be like, imagine if I reacted like, why haven't you gotten back to me? If you don't want to come, you could just tell me about this, like I could be assuming all these negatives, or I could sit there, okay, I'm feeling a little anxious because the expo's coming up. I don't know if she's going to be able to go or not. I have time to hire another person. Like, what's going on? Why isn't she respecting me enough to contact me back? And I said, you know what? If she wants to do it, she will. If not, she won't. But like, there's no need to pester her. She knows that you want her there. It is what it is. Day 4. Hey, sorry, I've been busy with work this week. Yeah, I'd love to help you out. So I get what I want because I was able to sit there and pause, recognize my emotions, and say, I don't want to freak out on this person. So they got stuff going on maybe I don't know about. Let's give them time. And because of that, the person's going to come to the thing. Versus texting her day 2, I just want you to know that I don't respect that you're not doing whatever, blah, blah. That's me showing anxiousness. That's me not recognizing that she has a life going on, that maybe she didn't see that, whatever. Like, and so you need to do that as a guy. Like in the dating phase, there's going to be a lot of times where you're thinking things are going to happen one way and it's not. But you don't know this person and they don't have a history enough with you to care about if they're doing things on your time frame or responding to you in the way that you want them to on text. All that matters is you can control how you react to things. And you will find that sometimes if you just sit and wait and you're just patient and you recognize the feelings and just don't like act on them, that women will be like, he's just so patient. He's so emotionally intelligent. He didn't yell at me when I wasn't able to make it on time for this thing. I just feel so like, you got to recognize that most women don't experience that. Most women experience guys that I don't have a handle on my emotions and things just happen and I just said things out of anger. I have yet to be in a relationship with a woman where I just felt the need to curse her out. Like it just, you effing B, like I can say things in a way that give that feeling tone without saying those exact words because I can sit myself and think and say, okay, how do I want to say this in a way that's going to get my point across, make her understand the seriousness of it, but not hurt her feelings because I don't want her yelling at me. I don't want her cursing at me. I don't want her yelling at me. You just did this to hurt me on purpose, blah, 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 blah. But that comes to, okay, that's going to be the initial feeling you have. Does that feeling need to go out? Why do you feel that thing when you feel it? And how can this be changed for the better of the situation? So something to consider. That's the third thing. The fourth way to get rid and combat anxious attachment style is to start looking at your communication patterns. And so look at the things that you're doing or saying. For example, are all your conversations on dates about like, well, is this gearing towards a relationship? Are all the questions you have about like, well, how do you feel about me? Do you see this thing going somewhere? Because it could very well be that the conversations you're having are the very things that are causing women to head for the hills. Like, if you're not aware of, for example, I say with me all the time, I talk very fast. You guys hear it. I hear it. On dates, I'm very mindful that for those first few dates, it might behoove me to slow down a little bit so they can not feel like nervous energy, because I know talking fast gives nervous energy. I just get really excited. But like, again, for those early dates, they don't know me like that yet. They don't owe me the courtesy of understanding that me talking fast is equated with me being excited and happy, you know? So I understand that. I change my communication pattern for dates. And then as we get to know each other more, then it becomes more acceptable as their like for me increases. But you have to understand that she doesn't have that on day one. So it may mean you talk a little slower. It may mean not telling all the dirty jokes that you want to tell early on. It may mean recognizing that having the conversations of, let's talk about feelings and how you hurt me the other day, but not text me back right away, aren't the best conversations to have early on in the dating process, because she's not going to care. So those are things you got to look at. And then the fifth thing to combat anxious attachment style is to always be seeking self-improvement. You know, one of the reasons I create these various books, these coaching programs, or even the free stuff like the videos on my page is because I was in your shoes once. And I recognized that by me, in my days, I was looking at people like Doc Love and David D'Angelo and these other guys that helped me because I was seeking self-improvement. I knew I was at a place where my dating was terrible, me relating to women was terrible, my attachment style was terrible, and I wanted out. But I found that by doing the work of self-improving myself, I became more confident and I became that kind of guy that women wanted to date, you know? And so you have the ability to do that. Like, you don't have to be where you're at right now. You could totally be you could be yourself, but be yourself as the version of yourself that is accepting of there are newer ways to do things that will be better to add to your arsenal that will work in the dating capacity while still being authentic, all right? And so I've been doing this stuff now. This will be my 20th year helping men with their dating lives. And I am still a student of the dating game. I still look up videos regularly. I'm still reading articles, both for you guys, but also for myself, because I don't want to rest my laurels. I'm always like, I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic, but there's always a shot I could be doing better. So why not? So that's me as a person that is like engulfed in this. You as a person that is like kind of struggling a little bit, don't be ashamed in thinking that it's bad to seek out self-improvement in the dating game, because we don't all get born like my brother where you're just kind of like naturally good with people, especially if you're an introvert. If you're an introvert, talking to people is already its own challenge, let alone then relating to them and then relating to women. Like, that's a journey. And so you always want to be seeking self-improvement. I would love to be part of that journey for you guys. So if you go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, I got ebooks, audiobooks. I got a free webinar right now called 3 Nice Guy Dating Patterns That Turn Women Off and What to Do Instead. That will help you start getting out of the nice guy phase of things. And of course, I got paid programs, which I don't feel bad charging for because it was a lot of work to get to where I'm at. So, but anyway, the point is I have all the stuff that's available to help you guys, but whether it's my stuff or somebody else's stuff, be constantly seeking self-improvement, because it's the best thing that you can do to take control of your dating life and avoid being an anxious attachment dater. So hopefully that portion of this show helps you out immensely. All right. So let's see. Before again, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the chat. I will be happy to answer their stuff. I do the show every Saturday. I'm trying to do them. I was going to do them at 9, but it seems like 12 o'clock works as a great time. So I may start doing these more so at 12 o'clock on Saturdays. And I do them at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesdays. So Tuesdays and Saturdays are the live shows, all right? And during these shows, you can come ask me any kind of question you guys have, and I'll be happy to answer them for free on this show, all right? So if you guys have any questions now before I get out of here, you can definitely ask them. I'm going to go over some of the other comments here. Let's see. So the question in the chat, let me drink. Hold on. Delicious. We got a question in the chat. The question goes, Coach, in your experience, what has been the reason as to why you attract women with boyfriends? Well, if you're a guy that is doing everything right and you walk with confidence and they know it, the reality is women are always looking for the bigger, better deal. And so most women, and this is what I said, like, men think that women won't just settle for guys or date them just to be dating. They will. So a guy came along and was seemingly like interested, and it was a bored Tuesday and she had nothing going on. So she said, oh, whatever, this and that. That doesn't mean that she necessarily weren't that pick, but what probably happened is that guy probably forced her into a relationship by asking for it too soon or giving the whole, like, if you leave me, I don't know what I'll do with myself. Oh my God. And so women get into those situations all the time, but that doesn't mean that they have a high interest for the guy, and it doesn't mean that the guy did everything right. Like, some women will fall for simps. Women do date simps, but that doesn't mean they want to stay with simps. And so if they see you come along and you have any ounce of confidence, you're not trying to push up on them. You know they have a boyfriend, so you're not trying to like actively get with them, which now makes you a challenge. Like all those things look appealing to a woman who has a simp boyfriend. So that is one of the reasons that it happens. The other reason is, especially like married guys, like social proof. Like if you're a guy that, let's say you're a guy that's like good with women, like you have women around you that like to spend time with you, well, other women can sense that. Other women can sense that other women have chosen you as a guy that has value and has worth. And unfortunately, that means that if she's dating a guy that she views as a simp or a loser, you've already been pre-selected by other women, which means in her head, you're a safe bet for what's going to be an outstanding guy. And so some women are now trying to approach, and then they do this thing called monkey branching. So picture like a monkey in the forest, like is going from branch to branch, but they usually grab onto one branch before they let go of the other one. That's monkey branching. And so a lot of women do that. A lot of women will be looking for the bigger, better deal, but because there's a chance that might not work out, like maybe you have a girlfriend that you're faithful to, or maybe you are married to somebody and you're faithful to them. Well, they don't want to completely let go of this branch yet, because even though they want you, what they don't want more is to be alone. And so if this doesn't work out, I can go back over to this guy, even though he's a simp. And is it fair? It is not, but that's just kind of like a lot of women operate that way. A lot of women operate on the thing of, I don't want to be alone, so I'll stick over here with this kind of okay deal, but if I see a bigger, better deal, I'm going to try to finesse it where I can talk to this guy and hope that he's interested. And if I see an opening of him being interested, then maybe I'll just start spending some time with him, not sexual, but just spending some time with him and getting to know him. And maybe we'll just like become like work husband and wife, or, you know, become like besties and whatever. And maybe just like, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, I let go. And so that happens all the time. So that's one of those things that you got to be recognized. But I typically say I wouldn't recommend dating those kind of women, because best believe if she monkey branches to you and you guys start getting into little fights or tiffs here and there, she'll happily monkey branch out while she's holding on to you, and you'll be unaware of it, because women are great at hiding things. So, but that's why that happens. It's not a good excuse, but it happens. See, give her so much space, she will think she's Neil Armstrong. That's hilarious. So we got a question or a comment more. So the question or comment is, he says, from the guy answered from earlier. So this guy has a comment and he goes, I'm sick of acting cold and distant. Men are being told not to chase and women are being told not to chase. So nobody is putting in effort because women think there is always something better. So first off, I need you to get rid of these are the kind of thoughts that are projected out there on like YouTube videos, like, all women want this, and guys, this is snap. And so notice, I never tell you guys be cold and be distant. What I say is be indifferent. And there's a difference. Indifference is you're not sewn to an outcome having to happen. You recognize people have the rights to do whatever they're going to want to do. I always tell women, hey, if you decide to stay with me, that's fantastic. But if you don't, you have a right to do whatever you want. You can go somebody else. You don't owe me that, right? But here's the thing. You're not acting cold and distant. You're still showing interest. It's just the way most guys try to show interest is in a way that is either very feminine leaning or is not appealing to women. So as a guy, you going up to her and walking up and saying, hey, what's going on? That's showing interest. You asking for a number, that's showing interest. You asking for the date, showing interest. You on dates trying to kiss her, showing interest. So notice, all that is showing interest. What I'm saying is you don't need to also be like, and I have feelings for you and I love you, blah, blah. And I say that because, as I stress time and time again, most guys are feeling that by date 2 or 3, and it's too soon for the woman. So you're doing yourself a disservice by trying to tell a woman after 1 or 2 dates that you have feelings because she's not there. And so even if you have feelings, that doesn't mean you can't have feelings. It just means that in terms of you having to express them verbally, you don't. You express feelings during the dating phase, you keep asking her for dates, you keep kissing her, you keep hooking up with her. That's how you as the guy are going to get away with showing affection and not being cold and distant. You know what's going to happen when you do that? She's going to respond in kind. The problem most men have with women, because you're saying women are being told not to chase. No, what's happening is that men don't give women the chase to space. Don't give women the space to chase. And so they never see it. Like, I was a guy at one point that I didn't understand what women chasing looked like. I would be able to get a girl on a first date, and in hindsight, I'm looking back like, oh crap, they were doing chasing. There was a girl I met one time in college. We went on, I had a friend of mine in college that had a female cousin come into town. And again, she coming into town. She goes to school in a different town than I do. I'm not trying to date her. The whole time, I'm just saying random comments here and there. She doesn't laugh at all my jokes. She doesn't say, that's so funny. She doesn't touch my shoulder. Like, at that point, I was like, okay, there's something here. So I just said, hey, if I'm ever in your town, like, I'd love to take you out. Give me a number, whatever, right? So then I go to her town because I go see a movie premiere, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to this movie thing. Do you want to go? Without hesitation. Oh my God, yes, absolutely. During the date, she's complimenting me. She's all like leaning up on me in the movie theater. At the end of the date, we get back to her place, and I'm like, she's sitting in a college dorm, right? So I'm gonna be a gentleman and walk her back to her place because I want to see her get back to her door. Not to hook up with her because I was still a virgin at this point and didn't know what the heck I was doing. But I walk her to just like the door where there's like a security to get through this part of the door to get to the next part of the whatever. So I'm just like, I'm walking to like the security part and then leave. And then she's like, hey, so do you want to come up? I'd never had a girl ask me to come up before. I literally just thought she wanted me to see her room. I went to her room. I saw her room and said, this is a nice room. But in my head, I'm thinking like, but what are we going to do in here? Because it's just this big bed taking up all the space. And I left. And then like 3 hours later, I was like, oh. But I never had a woman show me those signs. So this is an example where the woman was chasing. She was one. I asked her for the date. I did my part, but then she's touching me. She's inviting me up to her place. She sits me on her bed, like all this stuff, right? But most men don't see that. And so we just think we got to do all the stuff because they're not going to ever chase us at all. And it's like men don't give the space. Men are so busy trying to do that we don't realize if we just do our part and then lean back, that allows them the space to come in and chase us. And so as I got better at dating, I started to see, oh, if I'm patient, women will chase. Women will try to come up to your place without you having to ask them. Women will make you all kinds of meals and compliment you and want to take you on dates and pay for things and take you on vacations and like, oh my God, it's all this chasing. But most men don't get there because it's a thing of like, they're thinking, well, I want the results I want. And so if I don't see them doing what I want them to do, why would I do what I need to do? And I'm telling you, if you just do the things that you need to do, women will give you the world and will do the chasing. And even with like the texting thing, right? I find in the beginning, if I'm just texting for dates, women will do like 70 to 75% of the initiating of text, which means I now don't have to worry about trying to chase them down with text. But men will think, but if I don't text them or get back to them in time, then I'm being cold and distant. Again, no, you're not. You're doing your part by asking for the dates and trying to get physical contact, right? But you got to leave space for them. If you don't leave space for them, then you're never going to see this. But again, in my program, Introvert Dating Success Academy, I talk about all this. I talk about the signs, because this is the thing too. You got to be aware of the signs. And so in that program, I talk about these are signs that you're not aware of that women show that indicate that they actually are trying to chase you. In the beginning, with all women, with most women, the chase from them is going to be subtle. Them just saying yes to the date is the start of their chase. Then on the date, if they're talking to you and they just happen to reach over a little bit and say, oh, and let me tell you about this. That touch, that's chase. And those are just two examples. I go over a lot more in the program, but suffice to say, most men don't know. I didn't know at one point what all these signals were, but as you learn, because they're very passive. So for guys, learning how women use passive language, it's like learning Spanish or Japanese and you don't know how to speak that. It's like, it really is its own way of moving about in the world. So once you learn those things, you'll realize that like I did, it's like the blinders were off. Oh, women were chasing me all along. Back in college when I couldn't get a girl, there were women that were doing and saying things that I didn't know was chasing because I didn't recognize what the signals were. So you got to learn those things. This goes back to self-improvement. You got to keep in the mind frame that you're going to be constantly learning about women and what they do and how they function and operate. And I say it is worth it because then you won't say statements like women are told not to chase. It's an involuntary. Women that have high interest in you, they don't have to be told to chase you. They will involuntarily do it. But you got to get them to that point. And so you got to learn what those things are, just lessons to learn. And they're all very learnable lessons. Anyway, see, he said, yeah, I had that quiet storm after the speech. It spanned a couple of days, but I handled it like a boss. Nice. So he's talking about, this guy's talking about when he had for Valentine's Day, he had to let the girl like not talk to her for a few days. He's like, yeah, I had that quiet storm after the speech. It spanned a couple of days, but I handled it like a boss. I had bouts of, dang, I missed her so effing bad. Then be like Patrick Swayze in Red Dawn. Hold it back. Yeah. You know what? It's funny because like I talk so much about like, the whole waiting between dates to contact a woman. When I first tried that, like, okay, I'm gonna take a girl on a date. And then I follow Doc Love stuff. And Doc Love was like, you need to wait a minimum, you need to wait 5 to 9 days before you contact the girl for a second date. And I was like, I changed it to 4 because part of my anxiousness, I was like, I can't wait 5 days. Like I just, as I've gotten older, I've actually had it where I can actually wait 2 weeks. and then hit a girl up and get a second date and third date. Like, it really is about, if they have high interest, they'll accept the date whenever, right? But that first time when I was like, okay, I took her out. And so, okay, I'm not going to text her, and I'm not going to try to just have banter conversation, and I'm not going to try to ask for a date right away. I'm just going to wait it out. And you know what happened that first time? The girl reached out to me the next day. Hey, Harry, just want you to know I had a great time last night. Oh, you mean if I'm not reaching out, they're going to have their own anxiousness going on and probably reach out to me first? Like, and that means they're now chasing me. And if they're chasing me, they can't. This is amazing. Oh my God. But again, a lot of the concepts I'm talking about, when I first say things like wait 4 days between dates to text, or, don't invite her to meet your friends in the beginning, you're going to feel, you got to study your emotions. When I say that, what do you feel? You probably feel anxiousness. Oh my God, he's saying, wait, what? Like, no, it's good. And it's like, you have to work past that, because getting past anxiousness means building new habits. And when you first start those new habits, like anything else, you're going to think, this isn't going to work. No, I can't do it. I got to go back to my old way, but your old way's not working either, right? So now you're stuck between like, the old way's not working, but this new thing, I'm not sure it's going to work. And oftentimes we'll lean back on the things that don't work because they're comfortable, versus trying an unknown that we don't know is going to work or not, And so I'm just saying, if nothing else, try the things I'm talking about one time. If it doesn't work, you've lost no ground. If you don't text the girl between dates and she gets mad at you, you're going to lose her anyway. But if you do keep her, then you realize, oh, so I didn't have to do the work of trying to think of text for 4 days straight to get her on another date. And then I found, when I waited between the dates to text, that it just made them anticipate seeing me more, to where I started getting a lot more second date hookups. Who knew that was going to be a result of that, But if I had never tried it, then I would have never gotten to that space. So now this guy's at a point where, like, they're back seeing each other once a week. Yeah, because all it took was, she needs time away from you. Again, guys don't like to hear that. How dare she? If she likes me, she should want to spend time with me. But you got to understand, her brain is your best ally, and her brain's going to imagine how great of a guy you are in your absence. So her brain's going to be building up the story of you in her head. But if you're a guy that is interrupting that thought by trying to text her all the time and invite her out all the time, then it's going to die out quickly. How do I know? Because I study patterns, and that's a pattern that I observed. Anyway, let's see. Oh, he said, great answer, coach. People always say it's because you attract emotionally unavailable women. It's like, no, I don't. Yeah, very, very true. So this guy says, I've expressed my interest, and she knows I'm more into her than she is into me. I feel like she won't speak to me again. Yeah, dude. I talk about this. I'm going to read that again. So for editing purposes, right? So this guy says, I've expressed interest in this girl, and she knows I'm more into her than she is into me. I feel like she won't speak to me again. So the fact that she knows that means you probably verbalized, hey, I'm more interested. That's not a good thing. Like, and again, this goes back to, this is the lie that men have bought into. We bought into the lie that in order for a woman to like us, she needs to know where our feelings are. And you know why we do this? Because we hear all those stories of women saying, this guy played me, or he just wanted me for a hookup and he didn't really like me emotionally. And we, trying to be the good guys, think, oh, I don't want her to feel that. I don't want her to think I'm in this just for a hookup. You know what? Tell her I have real feelings. She's going to respect that, because she realizes I'm not just here for her body. And it's a lie, because here's the reality. Women don't mind having sex. And so all those times when they say, like, oh my God, this guy used me, she was part of that equation. She decided that this guy that she didn't know very, very well, she was like, we hung out a couple of times. It's cool. I'll hook up with them. They never going to give you the story of, like, I pursued him and I wanted to hook up with him, even though I knew he wasn't ready for a relationship. And now I feel some kind of way about that. So I'm going to retroactively change the story to, oh, he used me for sex. But did he? Because you were a willing participant. Like, unless he, like, I'll say forcefully made you do it, she was a willing participant. And so I told a story before in here, but, like, I had a friend in college who, like, came to me one day crying, and she was like, oh my God, I did such a horrible thing, or this guy did this horrible thing to me. What's wrong? She went up to his dorm, and the next thing she knows, his stuff was inside of her mouth. And she was like, I'm so devastated. And for the longest time, I was mad at him. And then I realized, but she went up there, and all he did was take his pants down. She didn't have to say yes, but she did. So am I mad at him, or am I mad at him or him for doing that? Or am I mad because he did it and I didn't? Like, I didn't have the courage to, what the freak? So yeah, like, understand that you trying to express to a girl early on that you feel a thing when she's not there, it's not a thing you have to do. And also, you're being tricked by your lust into thinking that you actually have full-on feelings for this person that you barely know. Guys tend to analyze things a lot faster than women do. So after 1 or 2 dates, if she smells good and we had a good hookup or she had a good conversation, we're like, yep, she's the one. And I said it on the show before, you cannot let that be the reason that you think you need to say feelings to a woman, because if you go to self-analyzing, like I talked about earlier, you'll realize, okay, am I really, really liking her? Or it's just she has a hot body, I want to bang her? Because you don't know enough about a person after 2 dates to really have feelings. And that's what women are trying to get to you guys to understand, is that she's not at the point where she has all those high feelings for you yet, because she's doing her due diligence and analyzation. And she's assuming you're doing the same. She's not assuming after 2 dates, you're going to have the hots and head over heels for her. So when you do, it makes no sense to them, and it shouldn't. And so as you understand their dating patterns better, and as you start to analyze what the things that you're feeling and doing, then you got to recognize, you'll start to realize, like, oh crap, like what I'm feeling is more so lustful than actually loving her based on how much I know her. I need to really like slow down and explore this further, which goes to the other comment you just sent, which is she was very sexually open towards me. And I offered, if she just wanted sex, I asked her to come to mine on the 3rd date. And again, she didn't respond. Either approach hasn't worked. Yeah, you shouldn't be talking about sex at all. Like, but to the point, she was very sexually open. That does not mean that she was ready for a relationship or that she had relationship feelings. I don't know if you guys can hear that in the back. Somebody's doing yard work. So anyway, so yeah. So, and here's the thing too, because let me do this again. She was very sexually open towards me, and I offered if she wanted to hook up. So at the point that she brought it up, why were you still talking? Like, if she brought up you want to do some stuff, you should have just gotten to kissing her and like taking her someplace and doing some things, right? So you trying to be like, well, I don't know. Like, okay, I'll say this. If you are not actively wanting to hook up on that 2nd date, you are in your full right to not have to hook up. But what I found is, and this is what I used to do as a nice guy too. In my nice guy days, if a woman looked like she wanted to do some hook stuff, I would be like, oh no, I don't want to do that because I'm trying to look out for her and I don't want her to think this is just a hookup thing. And so I'm going to deny the request that she's putting out because I don't want her to view me badly. But I would want to do it and she would want to do it. And we're grown adults and we can totally do that. And it doesn't have to lead to anything. But I think nice guys have the problem of thinking if I hook up with her and then it doesn't lead to something, she's going to be devastated. This falls into superhero syndrome, where we think we got to be the end-all be-all, we got to be the superhero. And I think I talk about that in the webinar. But suffice to say that in the process of you trying to be a good guy, you're leaping over the fact that she said she wanted sex and that she was okay with it and that she wanted to do it with you. And that meant that there had to be no delay. So when you didn't do it, if you in fact wanted to do it, you're basically now disrespecting what she wants. You're saying, what you want is not a thing, I don't want to do it, whatever. And women don't want to feel that either. So like I went to her city so she didn't have anywhere to go. Doesn't matter. She still said she was down for the hookup. So again, she voluntarily said, I'm down for a hookup. If you rejected it, that's on you. But also, it's not your job to protect her from what may happen later after the hookup. Like if you guys hook up and you decide you don't be with her anymore, hey, she's grown. She knows what she's getting into. It's not your job to tell her, well, I don't want to do because, God forbid, this is the thing or whatever and this and that. Like, it's not your job, guy. And that's the thing that most nice guys have to get over is the idea that we're protecting them by not doing a thing that we both want to do. Like, that's not a thing. And women don't respect that. Real talk. Women want sex as much. I feel, especially, I've been in enough relationships to know. Like, especially as I've gotten older, because on the 40 cusp, you start to lose a little bit of your libido in a sense of like, you don't have to do it as much. Like, if it's between hooking up with somebody or playing a video game, some days I may choose video game. But suffice to say that, like, I found as a result of that, I've been able to discover that women that like you have a high libido. And I've dated from like age 24 to like 42, right? Across the age ranges, as I've been able to be that more patient guy that's like not pushing them for sex, oh my God, they want it. But when they want it, I'm not turning it down. I'm not like, I don't want your stuff right now. Like, unless I'm working on something. And then it's like, I'm working on something, but give me like 5 minutes, we'll be over there, right? So if they're bringing it to your attention, then it is what it is. He says, I didn't reject it. I asked if she wanted to get a hotel, but she had work that evening. So that's one of those things, guy, because she had work, but was there time at all to, if there wasn't time to do anything, then it is what it is. But so there's a few things going on here. For one, if you had time to do some stuff and you rejected it, that's on you. If she legit had work things, then that could have been legit, or it could have been an excuse because maybe she didn't want to do it. The fact that she's not responding to your stuff now, I don't know what conversations have happened beyond that initial thing. So you got to go back and analyze like what conversations you were having. If you were now trying to push the hookup agenda, because I've been the guy where it's like, if hooking up was promised, I would try to text him about it later. But it's like in the moment it was sexy, and then like later on when you try to bring it up again when that moment's passed, it can seem awkward because now then it seems like you're just about sex, you know? And so women, even if they're saying in the current moment, I want to hook up with you, this is that, they still want to feel like you want them beyond that. You want to date them. You want to wine and dine them. You want to just spend time in their company. And if a hookup happens to happen, then fantastic. So if you're just saying, hey, let's reconnect in my city to hook up, that's not the way to go about this, versus like, hey, let's meet up in my city. We'll go out to dinner and then we can do Netflix and chill or some crap like that, right? So it really depends on like how that's all been set up. But so in terms of how she's responding now, you've put out there you want to see her. That's really all you can do. Texting is like a tennis match. So if you've already sent over the net, hey, I want to meet up, let it sit. Will she get back to you? You can't control that part. All you can control is the part you do, which is I'm putting out the offer and let's see if she accepts it. It may be she waits a day, a week, a month. If she doesn't respond at all, you should still be in the process. It's only been 2 days with this girl. You should still be seeing other women. And ideally, wait for it. Ideally, you're seeing women that are in your own city, because I'm not a fan of long distance relationships. I don't know how far away the city is from where you're at, but you should be trying to focus on women that are in your general area, because that's going to make it a lot easier to be less attached to this current outcome having to happen. Like if you were seeing 2 or 3 other women in your city right now, this woman will just be like, I'll get to her when I get to her. But because I don't know if that's happening or not, but suffice to say, it doesn't sound like it is. If it is, then you still should not be obsessed with this one having to work out. Like, it's great to be like, I hope that that's going to be a potential hookup that actually happens. But again, as the guy, you should be having other options available. So that way you have choices and that you're not going to be so attached to this person having to work out. It says the dating pool here in my town is poor. That's why. And it may be that way. And hey, you know what? I've lived in Philadelphia. I've lived in Atlanta. I now live in LA. And so if it's like a city or 2 over, that's not the biggest like drive to have to do. But sometimes it may mean if you're in a population of like, say, like 1,000 people, right? If you live in a city that's like 1,000 population, that's not going to be a good place to go dating. Like people that live in like very, very small towns, I'm like, don't get my program. Like, don't get my program because I don't need bad reviews. If you're saying there's like 2,000 people in your town and half of them are married, a third of them are gay, you don't have enough of a population to be able to test out the things I'm talking about. You need to go to a metropolitan area. So if you have the means to move to a bigger area, then that may be a better shot. But in the meantime, I'd say I imagine there's got to be some people in your town. But if there's nobody in your town, you got to decide what you're going to do. If it means dating girls, towns are 2 over, then you can't complain about the distance, and you got to be willing to make those pilgrimages on a regular basis. Or you meet a woman that's like, oh, I've considered moving to where your town is, and be like, okay, we'll date, but then there's a time limit on like if you're going to move to me or whatever. But like you can't have the excuse of like there's nobody in my town, because I've lived in short towns and still been able to date people, you know? So just consider that also, that like, and yes, you don't have to worry about like, I know the idea is like you want a quality girl and it's not necessarily the quantity that matters, but you need quantity. And the reason, I'll tell you why. You need quantity to date, because the more women you date, it gets you over some of the things that right now are a big deal. Like, for example, this girl not texting you back is a big deal because you don't have other options. If you had 3 or 4 other options and she didn't get back to you, you have 2 or 3 other options that would get back to you, and this girl would be on the back burner. And so part of having quantity is to get over those things, because at the point that happens, you won't be bugged. Like as me now, I can date 1 girl at a time. And if this girl starts acting up or is not texting me back, I can be patient and wait for like 3 or 4 days or even a week before I hear back from her. And then if it goes a week and I don't hear from her, oh, okay, on to the next girl, because I have that abundance mindset. But I wouldn't have been able to get to that space if I hadn't started dating 2 or 3 girls at a time. And also you'll find that even though you might think, I want quality over quantity, I don't want to date a whole bunch of women, I can assure you the majority of women that you're dating are probably dating other people when you first meet them. It's fine. It's totally fine to do that, you know? So suffice to say, you need quantity to be able to get a better spectrum of the kind of women that are out there, but also so you can practice. Because what you don't want to happen is that one right girl for you comes along and you have all the bad habits because you didn't have practice on these other women, and now you don't know what to do with the one you actually want, and you're back to square zero, you know? Just want to put that out there. So anyway, guys, that's all I have for today. My voice is giving out, and I want to go out and enjoy the day. So thank you guys for watching. To end the stream, I'm going to play for you guys something that I just put out, and then I'll go into the outro. But if you guys need help with any of this stuff, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, check out my ebooks, audiobooks, programs, all the stuff designed to help you date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thank you guys for watching. And so I'm going to end this with my, I have an album that I put together called Kevin Samuels Was Right. You can get it at the link in the description. I'll put it down there, but you can go to my website also to get it. But it's 10 songs dealing with dating. And I put a video out recently that's been apparently very popular, and it's called Buy a Dog, Die Alone. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. And I will see you guys on Tuesday. All right? Peace.
Where are you going? No, Lulu, don't pee on the carpet. Lulu!
You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog. You about to buy a dog and die alone. There you go, crying you're alone. To your girlfriend on the phone, oh. Dressing like a thought, clubbing every night, cause the party never stops, oh. Flirting with a man, take a fella home for a one-night stand, oh. Wake up in the bed, fella just left, now you're all alone again. I got a question, how many solo birthdays without having a mate is it going to take before you change your ways? How many more times are you going to fake that your life is great without someone by your side willing to ride, do or die? But all you think about is I want this, I want that. Dude with a six-pack, six-figure stack, paying my bills and all that. But you 45 plus, acting like you 25. Plus you still up in the club, smoking every night. 3 bad kids at home, 4 lame baby daddies, cause you couldn't quite remember who the third kid belonged to. You got the nerve to turn down a brother who had taken all your kids cause he's 5'6", and turn around and scream out to the world, I can't find a good man. So now I understand why you got to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog. You about to buy a dog and die alone.
Can't nobody tell me what I can or can't post up on my own social media. If I want to shake my can for the gram, then who are you to tell me I can't?
There you go, posting up a thirst trap. Them high value men, they don't like that. You say I can do what I wanna do. I say you should go to the kennel boo. You say you want a high value man in your life, but you don't have the things that he needs in a wife. All this boss chick, independent chick attitude with this minute ish, and you not staying fit like, hey Big Shirley, you so burly, mad at the world cause they did you dirty. Won't change up cause you over 30. Act like a man, never been that girly. Yeah, always got a comeback of attack when you get called out for the way you act. Thought you got to get some licks from a pit bull. Pitiful. Kevin Samuels gave the manual, but you couldn't believe this is what a man would need. So you called him a sexist? Girl, you need a therapist. You won't date nice guy Brad, but you give it up to Chad? He ain't even got no pad. Spend your energy on bums who leave you in the dust. No wonder you think all men suck, but keep on playing. But that wall's getting close. Pretty soon you'll be a ghost to the dude you want the most, but you won't date down till it's too late. That 5'6" guy is looking pretty fly, but you passed him by, and now he's got a wife who is 6'1". They be having lots of fun. Meanwhile, you go into the pet shop for some little bow wows that'll love you till your heart stops. Call them Lulu and Sunny, but they only live so long. When they die, you gon' still be alone. When they die, you gon' still be alone. When they die, you gon' still be alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog, die alone. You about to buy a dog, die alone. Buy a dog. You about to buy a dog and die alone. Should've changed the ways, but you won't. Waited too long and now you're up. Kevin, he was right, now you know. You gon' buy a dog and die alone. You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high class man. You a high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man.